Let's take a trip back in time, way before Egypt's pyramids dotted the landscape, back to when two mighty civilizations ruled, the Sumerians and the Atlanteans. These two were kind of like neighbors. If your neighbor lived thousands of miles away and had a totally different approach to life. But here's the thing, despite their differences, they had a lot more in common than we might think, and that connection would eventually shape the rise of Egypt after the third wave of the Great Flood. Sumer, nestled in the fertile land between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, was all about the cultural, spirituality, and keeping the gods happy. They had these intricate systems of writing and a deep connection with the cosmos. They focused on aligning themselves with the divine order, their rulers even being part god in the earlier times. Meanwhile, Atlantis, according to Plato, was sitting pretty in its technologically advanced cities, probably thinking they had the world all figured out. Atlantis was the civilization of innovation, with technology that would blow anyone's mind today. If they could find it under the sea, that's it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Despite being so different, the Sumerians and the Atlanteans weren't strangers to each other. In fact, their cultures and writings were surprisingly similar, hinting that they had been trading ideas for years. They exchanged more than just goods. They exchanged knowledge, even spiritual insights. Their languages had similarities, and you could even spot traces of their influence on each other's architecture and religious practices. But while the Sumerians were busy developing civilization with a capital C, the Atlanteans got a bit too cozy with their tech. As the Sumerians focused on cultural and connection with the gods, Atlanteans started to arrogantly focus on their technology, believing they could control everything without needing divine intervention. And that's when the gods decided to step in. Plato, the famous Greek philosopher, stumbled upon the story of Atlantis through Egyptian priests in the city of Sais. They told him about Atlantis, this extraordinary civilization that existed around 9,000 years before Plato's time, but it had collapsed due to its arrogance. The Atlanteans' obsession with technology, rather than balance with nature or the gods, led to their downfall. In one swift motion, the third wave of the Great Flood came crushing down, sinking Atlantis beneath the waves and erasing their technological wonders from history. While Atlantis disappeared under the ocean, Sumer also faced devastation from the flood. Yet, both civilizations had survivors, and they were determined to carry their legacies forward. Where did these survivors go? Dun dun dun, Egypt. That's right. The survivors from both Sumer and Atlantis found refuge in Egypt. And to the Egyptians, these people must have seemed like gods themselves. After all, they came with advanced knowledge of construction, astronomy, and spiritual practices that were far beyond what the Egyptians had known. Together, the Sumerians and Atlanteans helped shape the rise of Egyptian civilization. It's no wonder that Egyptians revered these gods who came from distant lands. The influence of Atlantis technology and Sumer's spiritual wisdom merged to create the perfect foundation for a civilization that would last for thousands of years. And those pyramids? Yeah, it's pretty likely that both Sumerian cosmic insight and Atlantean engineering prowess played a role in their construction. The alignment of the pyramids with the stars? classic Sumerian influence. The precision and sheer scale? That's some leftover Atlantean tech wizardry right there. Now, the Egyptians had a unique perspective on how they gained all this wisdom. They believed they received their knowledge directly from the gods. But here's where things get really interesting. That divine connection? It wasn't just some mystical event. The Sumerians had long practiced a method of connecting with the divine that we can only describe as meditation. Through deep, focused state of reflection, they believed they could communicate with the gods and receive guidance. The Atlanteans, on the other hand, may have used their technology to tap into divine realm in their own way, but when they reached Egypt, they found that Sumerian meditation techniques offer a more sustainable path. Over time, the Egyptians adopted these practices. They refined them, developing their own meditative rituals in which they could commune with the gods, receive knowledge, and maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order and harmony of the universe. So when the Egyptians said they were receiving wisdom from the gods, they were probably practicing a form of meditation, a technique they inherited from the Sumerian survivors who had perfected the art of connecting with the divine. We'll call it meditation for simplicity's sake, but really, this was more than just sitting in a quiet room. It was a way of unlocking higher knowledge, understanding the universe, and making sure they stayed in favor with the gods. These meditative practices became central to Egyptian rituals and were passed down through their priesthood, shaping the spiritual core of their civilization. But as time went on, the survivors of Sumer and Atlantis slowly faded into history. Their descendants in Egypt may have inherited the knowledge, but as the generations passed, that knowledge started to turn into tradition. The pharaohs, once capable of deep meditation to connect with the gods, began to lose their direct link to the divine. Mummification, which may have originally been part of a real process for spiritual rebirth and communication, became more of a ceremonial practice. The pyramids remained as symbols of once great connection between the material and spiritual worlds, but the deeper knowledge behind them was gradually forgotten. The pharaohs, who were supposed to be gods in human form, became more symbolic than functional in their divine role. What was once a real connection with the divine, achieved through meditation and advanced knowledge, became a set of rituals, repeated without fully understanding their original purpose. So what we have here is a fascinating chain of events. The Sumerians and Atlanteans merged around the same time, exchanging ideas, knowledge, and even spiritual practices. But while Atlantis focused on technology, Sumer kept its sights on civilization and spiritual connection. After the third wave of the Great Flood wiped out both civilizations, their survivors found a new home in Egypt, where they helped shape one of the world's greatest empires. Through meditation or practices like it, the Egyptians believed they could receive knowledge from the gods, a method they likely inherited from Sumerian spiritual traditions. But over time, as bloodline faded and the original knowledge was lost, meditation and other spiritual practices became more symbolic, leaving behind the deeper truths known to those early survivors. Egypt remained powerful, but the divine knowledge that once fueled its rise was eventually consigned to legend. In the end, while Sumer and Atlantis faded into myth, their legacy lived on in Egypt, in the form of meditation and the enduring belief that true wisdom comes from connecting with the divine. And that's a wrap on our deep dive through the 3 great floods. Who knew ancient civilizations had so much water drama? This final wave brings our journey to a close. If you are as fascinated by these ancient myths as we are, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter in our journey through time. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think these ancient stories are trying to tell us? I'd love to hear your theories. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, these myths are not just about the past. They are keys to unleashing your own creativity and understanding the world in new and profound ways. Until next time, stay curious, keep creating, and let's continue to uncover the hidden wisdom of the ancients together.